Welcome back to Never Done Ask with me, John Martin, and we have another station review. This time we find ourselves in Birmingham, in the city centre, to look at one of the main stations of the city, run by West Midlands Trains. My friends, we find ourselves at Birmingham Snow Hill Station. This is the northernmost of the three city centre stations in Birmingham. The main entrance is on Colmore Row, next to Cathedral Square. The station spans the Queensway Ring Road and has a side entrance on Livery Street. The station sits on what is referred to as the Snow Hill lines. Jewellery Quarter is 3/4 of a mile to the north. Moore Street is half a mile away, reach through a tunnel under the centre. The story of Birmingham Snow Hill Station begins not in steel and stone, but in Oppenheim's glassworks, a sprawling industrial site at the heart of Birmingham. In the mid-1840s, two young railway companies, the Birmingham and Oxford Railway and the Birmingham, Wolverhampton and Dudley Railway, had grand ambitions to link Birmingham with Oxford, the West Country and beyond. Both were authorised by Acts of Parliament in 1846, and almost immediately the Great Western Railway swooped in, purchased the lines in a strategic bid to expand its network northwards. Construction of the line from Paddington to Birmingham was led by the iconic engineer Isabel Kingdom Brunel, along with his contractors Samuel Morton Pato and Edward Ladd Betts, laying track from 1847. Brunel's broad gauge met the standard gauge at Oxford, and by 1st of October 1852, the first Snow Hill station opened. It was modest, wooden, and simply called Birmingham Station. It would soon be referred to as Great Charles Street, and Livery Street before settling on Snow Hill. From the start, Snow Hill was the Great Western Railway's gateway into Birmingham, intended to rival the city's main station, but hampered by fierce competition from the London North Western Railway, which effectively blocked the GWR from sharing facilities at Curzon Street and New Street, forcing the Great Western to create its own cutting and tunnel into the city centre. The first station was never meant to be permanent, and by 1871 a much more substantial brick and iron station replaced the wooden building. The new structure featured two through platforms and several bay platforms at the Wolverhampton end, reflecting the growing traffic along the Great Western routes north and west. Alongside it, the impressive Great Western Hotel was built as a statement of prestige and confidence, a bold architectural flourish in a city increasingly defined by industry and rail. As Birmingham boomed, so did Snow Hill. By the early 20th century, Great Western undertook the most ambitious redevelopment of all. Between 1906 and 1912, the station was entirely rebuilt on a grand Edwardian scale: broad island platforms, ornate waiting rooms, soaring glass and steel roof, and extended capacity to handle suburban and long-distance trains alike. This was Snow Hill at its zenith, Great Western's proudest Birmingham station. For decades, Snow Hill was a hive of activity: expresses to London, services to Wolverhampton low level, trains across the West Midlands, South Wales and beyond. But the post-war era brought profound changes. In 1948, the railways were nationalised and Snow Hill became part of British Railways Western region. The real turning point became with the electrification of Britain's trunk routes in the 1960s. While in the early 1960s, Snow Hill had 7.5 million passengers compared to New Street's 10 million. As the West Coast main line was modernised and Birmingham's New Street became increasingly dominant, many of Snow Hill's long-distance services were diverted or cut. Passenger numbers dwindled. What once had been a great rival to New Street now seemed redundant. Snow Hill's final long-distance trains ran in 1967, and though reduced local service from Langley Green and Wolverhampton low level limped on to 1972, that year marked the station's closure. The grand Edwardian buildings were demolished by 1977, leaving only fragments and memories. But the story did not end. Public demand for better city transport grew up in the 1980s. A new station was built on the Snow Hill site, and on the 5th of October 1987, Snow Hill reopened, this time as a modest commuter hub rather than a grand Victorian terminus. It linked local service to Worcester, Kidderminster and Stratford-upon-Avon, and provided a vital interchange with the Midland Metro Light Rail system when that opened in 1999. Network South East launched its service from Marylebone in 1993. Yeah, we're not in the South East, but Network's southeast empire did stretch to Exeter at one time. Likewise, we weren't in the western region of, well, really in the western region of British Rail, but that's what pretty much all the lines that the Great Western had were then given to the western region. Anyway, we have 3 platforms here. They are set up as 2 island platforms. Platform 1 is 270 metres long and is on the same island as Platform 2, which is 272 metres long for some reason. Well, according to these figures. Platform 3 is on its own island and it is 273 metres long. The station is classed by the Department of Transport as a C1 category, which is an important feeder station or a busy junction. Marks for services, 7 out of 10. Off-peak, there are generally 9 or 10 services an hour. The Snow Hill lines form an arc linking the Warwickshire towns to the south of the city with the Worcestershire towns to the southwest. West Midlands trains run the service from Worcester to Stratford-upon-Avon. Worcester Foregate Street is an hour 5 away, Kidderminster 40 minutes. Stourbridge Junction is 27 minutes away. Smethwick Gordon Bridge is 10 minutes. Moore Street is 2 minutes. Solihull is 18 away. Dorridge, where some of these services terminate, is 25 minutes away. And Stratford is 52. There is also a Kidderminster to Stratford service that goes via Henley and Arden. Lock's End, where some of these services terminate, is 25 minutes away. Henley and Arden is 42. And Stratford on this route is 59 minutes away. Chiltern trains run a train every 2 hours to London. Warwick is just over an hour away. Bicester North is an hour 9. And Marylebone is 2 hours 8. Just for comparison, the Avanti service is an hour 16 from New Street to London. Moore Street has more Chiltern services. Some of the peak services from Chiltern do extend to Stourbridge. From the 24-25 figures, the most popular destination is Stourbridge Junction with 225,997 journeys, followed by Rowley Regis, Kidderminster, Credley Heath and Solihull. To contrast this with Moore Street, only Stourbridge Junction and Solihull feature in Moore Street's top 5. Less people travel to Stourbridge from Moore Street, but more travel to Solihull. Looking at the figures, we have 3,158,970 exits and entries, giving an average daily of 8,641 passengers starting or ending their journey here. With 1,025 services a week, this gives us 59.2 passengers a service. However, if we add in the passengers who use the service station as an interchange, we get a daily average of 9,464.4 passengers a day, which comes out to 70.5 passengers per train. Passenger numbers on the up, but before COVID there were 5.5 million passengers, so we're well down on that. Marked for onward travel, 5 out of 5. St Chad's tram stop sits next to the platform to Snow Hill. The trams run from Edgbaston, south of the city centre, to Wolverhampton, along the route of the old line from Snow Hill. There are massive buses from stops around the station, so probably too much to list here. On the travel note, I note the first time I encountered this station, when it was actually closed, was on a canal boat holiday when I was a kid. The Birmingham Facility Canal runs underneath the platforms. The station sits on top of what is either a long bridge or a short tunnel. It's a huge arch that has still haunted my memories for years after. Marks for accessibility, 9 out of 10. This is a modern station. Its accessibility is reflected in that. There are lifts to the platforms. We have displays, announcements, and staff assistance is available from the early mornings until the evenings. We have accessible toilets. We have baby changing facilities. And there is an RNIB touch and braille plan at the station. However, we don't have changing places toilets, and as I'm writing this review, one of the lists is out of order. Marks for station facilities, 6 out of 10. So both sets of platforms have toilets, including accessible toilets. From the main entrance, there is a booking office, there are ticket machines, there's a photo booth, and a bit of retail. The Colmore Street entrance to the platforms are fully covered by a car park, so that's counting as sheltered. There are 863 car parking spaces, 20 of them are accessible. There also is bike storage here. The country end of the station has some covered seating but little else. Compared with other big city stations, this has few facilities, but there aren't that many long distance services here and we are in a busy part of the city. Marks for care and character. 7 out of 20. This has things going for it. It isn't the worst station in Birmingham city centre. That's its own nemesis, New Street, which beats it hands down for worst platform level experience. The main entrance is modern, tidy and soulless, though it is nice to see that this station, with its multi-millions of users a day, had funding from the EU. As you walk along the passage towards the platforms, you can see the decaying remains of the old Midland Metro stop, though I've just seen on the news as I'm writing this that the tracks are being lifted and it's looking like they want to bring the fourth platform back into use. Descending onto the platform level, there was a nice touch of the silver, an odd statue, and you can still see the old retaining wall, well, bits of it, along Liverpool Street, but there's nothing is going to disguise this station is sitting under a car park. With the low roof, delightful with a fully diesel service, with the occasional steam train, another form of attraction best suited to lack of space for the air to circulate. It really has an atmosphere. The buildings on the platform do not have the stance of permanent that stone buildings do. Breaking out from under cover, we have the open section of the platforms, and here it feels like they've just forgotten to build part of the city. The Livery Street entrance at this end station looks modern, but with a gate line I wasn't able to exit there, and at the main entrance, so I only experienced one of the two. It's really a station of 4 parts. The 90s built on a budget main entrance, the claustrophobic under a car park section, the underloved open space of the country end, the platform dominated by the road running underneath, and there's the modern Livery Street entrance. It's a station that doesn't go together well. Rather, it's been built to fit in with the surroundings and trying to bother them as little as possible. Marked for nearby things, 8 out of 10. We're in the city centre here, so it's surrounded by the business district and Leicester Cathedral. So pretty much safe to say there's a lot of things to do here. If you want to change of pace, you can take a walk around the canals of Birmingham. I'm dropping marks off for the busy road that runs under the station and seems to divide the area. Overall, this station gets 41 out of 65, which is 63%. It has a reasonable frequency of trains and is an accessible station when the lifts are working. But what gives this good marks, the onward travel and the things that are nearby, really aren't in the station control. This station doesn't have much in the way of retail facilities and is fairly bare bones. It is in general a charmless station. So while it gets good marks, it isn't a station I like. Especially as Birmingham also has Moor Street, which serves the same services, well actually more, it has more Chiltern, and is also a delightful station. What do you think? What do you prefer in Birmingham? Anyone here want to big up New Street and the New Street platforms? Or do they dislike the car park in Snow Hill? Leave it in the comments. Once again, thank you for watching this as I travel around the country. Please like, subscribe and ring that bell to be notified of the next station review.